Okay, so this is the main website, ayurveda.ie. You can see the spelling of Ayurveda up there, and then it's just a .ie after it. And if you go to this menu option here, Ayurveda, you can read up about Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And this evening, we're going to be discussing a lot about Vata. So you can read all about the qualities of Vata and what it governs. And it actually even breaks it down to the sub-doshas of Vata, which Dr. Naheed is going to talk about. But then it gives what happens when your Vata is out of balance. So you see worries, overactive mind, sleep problems, difficulty breathing, and the different Vatas, dry cough, sore throat, all those different things. And then questions, and do you need to balance your Vata? And then there are some tips down there about how to balance Vata and Vata pacifying diet as well. So you can come back to this after you've done this lesson, and you can go over that as well. And there's a body type test that you can do there as well, with different things. And there's some great information on this website. Like there's all these different health advice notes as well, so you can go in and look at any of them, you know. And health advice, you know, they're all different topics that you can go in and read about. And then also then for people to get to the YouTube channel, if you don't want to remember what the YouTube address is, just click on this health advice videos, and that'll bring you to the YouTube channel, you know. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share. So that's just ayurveda.ie. You can get all the details about our doctors. All of that is there, you know. So I'll just stop the share, and we'll see is there's Rajvinder there. Hi, Raj. Yeah. Hi, Rajvinder. Okay, so Kelly says the screen quality you are sharing is not readable, poor quality. Yeah, well, what you do, Kelly, then is you just go to the website. You see the website, ayurveda.ie. You know, I'm not too sure why that would have been, but you can see it when you just go there, you know. Rajvinder?
Yes, hello. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
Okay, okay. Is your screen on or off?
It's on.
Okay, for some reason you're not. Oh, yeah, sorry, you're not. Hang on a second. Yeah, okay, there you are there. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Hello, everyone. Okay. Good to see you all.
So is it okay to eat salad in the summer? I'm predominantly Vata. Well, like if you're going to eat salad, summertime would be the time to do it. But I wouldn't have it as a main meal for a Vata person. You know, maybe a little bit, and put some oil on it if you do. Maybe Rajvinder, would you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, if the day is very warm, like today in the morning, it was quite hot and warm. So you do want something kind of salady. But you can make like a chickpea salad or a quinoa salad where you steam the quinoa and then add maybe a grated cabbage, purple cabbage, something. Not too much of cabbage if you're Vata, but a small amount of soft York cabbage is very soft. And then a grated carrot and maybe a pre-boiled that you boil yourself. And then you can keep them beetroots. So arugula, rocket leaves, so simple. And then some oil, as Noel said, so that it's not too dry. The problem with the salad is it has a cold and dry element. And the cold and dry element is dominant in Vata people. So it's increase. So you increase dryness to your joints, dryness to your bowels. So then with the salads, people then tend to get sluggish on their bowels and all. So that's where you do this in moderation. In the summer, okay, as a small amount of salads with something warm beside it, or putting some warm falafel in it, or warm chickpea, warm quinoa, warm buckwheat, as I said.
Yeah, and actually you're going to learn all about it tonight anyway in this lesson on Vata. This evening we're discussing Vata, so you'll know why it's not such a great idea to eat a lot of salads if you're a Vata person. If you're a Pitta person, it's possibly a little bit better. Kapha wouldn't be great for Kapha either, you know.
So we look at the quality. So you're going to listen to the quality of Vata, which is cold and dry and light. So you go opposite to the quality if you have Vata imbalance going on in your system. If you think very much balanced Vata, there is nothing wrong, then yeah, in moderation, you can do salad.
Okay, so I think we need to get started, actually. It's nearly coming up to 20. Kelly says body type test was balanced for all types. Yeah, well, you could be tridoshic, so you could have, there are people that would be Vata, Pitta, Kapha in equal amounts, you know. So that's,
yeah, there still be one dominant. That is your more behavior, your more nature. There still be one more prominent than the other.
Okay, so I'm going to share the screen here, And I'm just going to go to this here. So this is pre-recorded, the lesson on Vata, and then myself and Dr. Richvinder and possibly Dr. Brennan will be on when we finish playing it. So again, if you want to turn your cameras off, it might make a difference to the quality. It may not either, but we tend to see that it does make a bit of a difference to the quality. And then when we come back on live, you can switch it on again. So this is the topic of today's talk is Vata, which is air and space. And it's a very, very interesting talk today. And the three doctors will give their different perspective on it. So we'll start. Discussed in our opening lecture, there are 5. Okay, so actually, yeah, if you want to switch off your cameras just while this plays, because I think it increases the quality of it. And then we can switch them back on when we come back to the live Q&A. Okay, everybody enjoy. We'll see you in a while. Basic elements according to Ayurveda. Okay, sorry, one thing, if we can turn off our cameras while the video is playing, and then we can switch them back on once we go back on live, okay? It seems to have an effect on the quality, all right. So if you just want to switch your camera off, not your screen, obviously, just your camera, and that might make the quality of it a bit better, you know? Okay. Veda, earth, air, fire, water, and space. And they combine together to form what are called the 3 doshas. And one of the principal doshas is called Vata. And Vata is made of air and space. And that's what we're going to be concentrating on today and focusing on today. So I'm going to start off by bringing in Dr. Don Brennan, who you all know from our previous lesson. So Don, I'm going to start off with you today, and just maybe you can give us your views on Vata. And one of the things would be that Vata is considered one of the most important doshas of the 3 doshas. So why would that be? Why would it be considered the most important?
Because Vata is the most fundamental. We have talked about how our most fundamental reality is at the basis of the mind, that silent witness or consciousness. And we described that creates, constructs, becomes the physical structure. And so the first movement is prana. Prana means first, ana is movement. So you have a silent witness now beginning to move, and that prana is the impulse of evolution, of manifestation of the form. So prana comes up, comes lively, and in its turn gives rise to fine feelings, and then mind, and then ultimately the physical structure. And in that process, the senses become lively, and we have 5 senses, so that ultimately, when it comes to the physical structure, that one prana actually manifests then in the body as 5 vatas, which Dr. Naheed will be describing to you. And then the whole issue of pitta and kapha, everything is moved in the body by vata, and vata, if it goes out of balance, can disrupt everything. So it's most fundamental and most important that we keep it balanced.
Okay, and I note with interest that, you know, when it comes to diseases and sicknesses, that the Vata has the majority of diseases associated with it. So it obviously has a very, very important role. And it's interesting that you say that when your Vata goes out of balance, it can lead your other doshas to go out of balance. So what would be the consequences, let's say, because, you know, we live in a very Vata deranging world. There's so much movement going on with TVs and screens and social media and all these things. But what would be the consequences for someone who had a lot of Vata if their Vata was actually in balance in their body?
Oh, if they were beautifully balanced, then the Vata gives rise to a very, very pure mind. They'll be energetic, they'll be adaptable, they'll be flexible, they'll be quick to comprehend, they'll be good communicators, and they'll have strong healing energy as well. Great enthusiasm, positivity. But if they start to go out of balance, it starts to be a rejectic mind or a highly irritated, overactive mind, indecisive, unreliable, agitated, volatile, restless, disturbed. And then if it gets really out of balance, it would be traumatic. Then they become dishonest and secretive and depressed and self-destructive. So that's on the mind. And on the physical side, physically, it gives rise to energy, vitality, enthusiasm. It's to do with inspiration and expiration. So what we give out, what we take in, and it gives a creativity, and it gives a very sensitive, refined personality. And so in a positive, Vata gives rise to this wonderful, dynamic, creative, energized, enthusiastic, vibrant person. So it's a lovely reality when we have our balance.
Okay, and so creativity would be a large part of Vata people in some ways. I believe that Vata people can tend to be very creative, and they need to fulfill that creativity.
Absolutely, because when we think of prana as that motivating force of the mind, if that is settled, then the mind settles. And the finest level of mind is feeling. So Vatas can be much more intuitive. And that's also why they have more, perhaps, of a healing capacity and a great sensitivity.
Okay.
Whereas Pitta is more intellectual, it's more a little more superficial in reality, so they're more driven by their intellect.
Okay. So what exactly would be the qualities and the functions of Vata?
So Vata is described in the old texts as being light and quick and moving and cold and dry and rough and irregular. And so those qualities are, expressed very much in a Vata physiology, which is very light and very quick, and they tend to dash here and dash there and make gestures and blink and never shut up because their mind is so busy. They talk a lot, so they think a lot, they talk a lot, they move a lot, they make gestures, they blink, and it's all very fast. They can tend to be irregular, erratic. Sometimes they're tired, sometimes they're energized. It's an erratic tendency in Vata. So they're light, they're quick to pick up information, quick to forget, quick thinking, quick talking. They have the qualities of dryness and roughness. So you may see that in their skin, it could be dry or rough. Or there may be a tendency for sort of muscle joints to dry up, So the Vata, therefore, does very, very well with the opposite qualities. The qualities of slow, stable, solid, oily. Another Vata quality is cold, which is why they like the warmth. So those qualities predominant would give that sort of a nature. And that sort of a nature then, for balance, would need opposite qualities, routine, regularity, as Dr. Rajvindra will be talking about later on. And Dr. Naheed will be talking about the specific Vatas and their function and balance.
Okay, so we see that Vata is made of air and space. So I suppose when you're describing the qualities of Vata, then we're looking at what the qualities of air and space actually are. So we just have to think about air and space. Well, it's very light, it's very ethereal, as you suggested, and also it's moving and it's subject to movement and all those things. So an increase of that lightness is obviously then going to have a corresponding increase in Vata. So as you said there, it's the opposites that balance Vata. So if someone is in a situation where their Vata is gone out of balance, and we're going to discuss that a lot more later on, then we do the opposite of the qualities of that dosha to bring that dosha back into balance. And that applies for all the doshas, I suppose. So if someone is very pitta, which is obviously a hot dosha, then we do the opposites to bring that back into balance, which is why maybe going for a swim is a very good thing for a pitta person to do, and maybe for a Vata person to do. I would assume then that meditation must be really good for Vata people.
Oh, very much so, because the real meditation is the settling of prana. And when the settling of prana happens, we go more and more within to finer and finer levels of the mind. And if the prana stills, then our awareness, our consciousness is still, and then we see ourselves. Then our awareness awakens to the conscious reality at the basis of the mind, to the reality that we are ultimately consciousness. And it's when that comes out under the impulse of prana that in order to manifest, it finds expression through five senses and five elements. And as you point out, the elements associated with the sense of hearing and touch are the air and space elements, which combine to make for the movement dynamics of Vata working in mind and body. And if we rush around, and if we're tired, and we're stressed, and if we're strained, and if our routine is irregular, and if we travel a lot, then obviously we're imbibing more of those qualities, which is actually making the whole system of mind and body more and more active. And the more active, then the less integrated. And that's why Vata is so fundamental, because keeping it balanced keeps us back towards our innate, natural template of health and balance. Whereas getting more and more excited is moving us away. It's like entropy, which is disturbing the order. And so we need to have routine, we need to have regularity, we need to have a good an oil massage is brilliant, but Rajvinder will be talking about those things.
Okay. So there's probably people out there now, they've maybe looked at, we described some of the doshas in the first lesson. They've maybe done the test on our website to give them an idea of what their dosha is, a beginning idea of it. So what would be how would you recognize that, you have a patient coming into you for a consultation? I mean, how would people recognize within themselves, or how would you recognize within another person that they had a lot of Vata within them, that they had a strong amount of Vata in them?
You probably see it from the first moment. Hyperactivity, very busy, fast pace of speaking, a lot of movement, gesturing, a mind that's very, very quick moving, and when you think of the function and the qualities of Vata, you can quickly understand the imbalance, because imbalance is discomfort, it's unease. We're naturally attuned to feeling good when we're integrated and balanced. And the feelings of discomfort are our innate wisdom informing us of going out of balance. So the sort of complaints, anything from movement, it could be a stroke, it could be Parkinson's disease, it could be a lightness or thinness of bones like osteoporosis. So you see the qualities there. It could be constipation, because that's a movement problem. It could be wind bloating, So there's so many features that from the story alone would give you the indication of the degree of balance and imbalance someone's experiencing, from looking at them, from feeling the pulse, so you can very simply recognize. And the good thing about Vata, it's quick, it's very fast, so it goes out of balance, but it often can come back to balance relatively quickly. And if anybody at this stage is trying to define whether they're Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, it's a bit early in the course, they should hear the Pitta lecture and the Kapha lecture, and then we can bring it together into a constitutional nature and a more holistic point of view.
Okay, Dr. Brennan, that's fantastic. I'm going to call on Dr. Naheed, and Dr. Naheed is going to talk about where Vata is located in the body. As we know, with all the doshas, there are subdoshas, so they're not just responsible for one set of tissues or organs, they can be responsible for many different sets of tissues and organ systems in the body. So Dr. Naheed is going to talk about where these are located and what can happen when they go out of balance in those particular areas. So Dr. Naheed, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Noel. So there are 5 subtypes of Vata doshas, and each subtype has their assigned functions, and they are located in different parts of our body. So the first one, which is located in the head, and which usually moves around the chest, throat, and in our mind and heart, that's called prana. So what does prana do? Prana means life. So what does it do is it helps in the sensory perception, it helps in deglution of our food, it helps in inhaling. And when they go out of balance, what they do is they produce cough, they produce hiccups, they produces flatulence, they cause breathing difficulties like shortness of breath, or maybe any wheezing kind of problem. And as they are located in the mind and heart, so when they get aggravated, they produces a kind of confusion. So, and why they get out of balance is because of stress and lack of sleep. So you must have heard that Vata goes out of balance when you don't sleep properly. So that's your Pranavata, which goes out of balance when you don't sleep on time. The second one is Udana. Udana is located in the chest and it moves in around the nose, in the umbilicus, and in the throat. What they do is they help us, like when I'm talking, my Udana Vata is helping me to speak up. That helps in the breathing, especially in exhaling our breath. They also help in memory, efforts, our enthusiasm, our strength, and that also helps to maintain a complexion along with the Ranjak Pitta. So what happens when they go out of balance, they also create breathing issues, they bring tightness in the chest, and there can be occasional congestion in your nose, and as they reside in the throat as well, so there can be discomfort in your throat, there can be harshness of your voice, and people can be, indecisive, they are not able to express themselves. Why they go out of balance? Because of too much of exposure to cold, eating too much of raw foods and dry fruits, that can lead to your Udana Vata goes out of balance. The third one is Samanawata. So where Samanawata is located is just below your chest and above your umbilicus. So all the organs which are present, like the liver, like the stomach, like pancreas, and every organs which are there, they move. The Samanavata moves in all the viscera and all the organs. So what they do is they help in digestion, the Samanavata, along with Pitta and the Agni. And not only digestion, what they do is it helps to separate the essence, the good things which we require to make our tissues, and it separates our waste from the good nutrients. And when they go out of balance, what they do is, because digestive imbalance like indigestion, like malabsorptions, like diarrhea and occasional constipation, so those who are suffering with constipation issues, so it's this Saman Vata which has got out of balance, and they can produce bloating, gas, and sometimes leaky gut as well. The fourth one is Vyana Vata. So there is a speciality about Vyana Vata. It's that it's present all over the body. So whatever movement which we are doing, whether we are bending our neck or just rotating our head, either we are walking, talking, or any, the sensory and the motor responses which we are doing, and our muscle contractions, our muscle relaxations. So all this is done by Vyana Vata. So what happens when the Vyana Vata goes out of balance? They produce cramping in the muscles. You can be like having increased or decreased heart rate, and they can produce anxiousness, tremors, and also blood pressure issues. And the fifth one and the last one, which is Apana Vata. So where is Apana Vata situated? It is situated below the umbilicus, in the pelvic region of our body. So everything which is happening below our umbilicus, that takes place because of Apana Vata. So whether it's our defecation, it's our urination, it's our menstruation, or whether it's giving birth to a baby, or it's ejaculation, everything takes place in our body in accordance with the Apana Vata. So what happens when your Apana Vata goes out of balance? They will definitely going to produce painful micturations. They can be constipations. There can be overreactive bladder. You are not able to hold your urine, like it happens in some situation. You can have menstrual issues, like you're not getting your period on time, or maybe you're getting too much of periods. And most like in certain ladies, like in few ladies, there is a habitual abortion, so kind of miscarriage kind of thing. So it's when their Apana Vata goes out of balance. So this is it from my end. on the subtypes of Vata dosha.
Okay, Dr. Naheed, so that's fantastic. It gives a very deeper understanding of the whole thing. So in reality then, when someone is actually going for a consultation with an Ayurvedic doctor, the doctor is analysing them based on, their look and their speech and maybe doing pulse diagnosis and then obviously speaking to the patient as well. But then, you're not just seeing that the person's Vata is out of balance, you're seeing which of the subdoshas of the Vata is actually out of balance. And then I presume then there's all different techniques and medications and procedures that you use to work on that particular subdosha to bring that subdosha back into balance.
Absolutely. That's really important to know, like which subdosha is responsible, because Ayurveda text has explained the timing of the doses. Like if your Udan Vata goes out of balance, then at what time you need to have your medicine, whether it will be before meal or after meal. And that definitely help us to choose a particular herbal which can bring balance that particular subtype of Vata dosha. So from clinical point of view, the knowledge of sub-doshas is very important to get into a correct diagnosis and with the proper medication and herbal supplements.
Okay, and I was saying earlier on at the start of the talk that Vata it's also one of the major doshas. It's the king of the doshas, but out of balance, I think it also causes some of the biggest problems. It's got the biggest amount of diseases associated with it. Is that correct?
Of course. So it has explained that just because Vata goes out of balance, there can be 80 types of disease can happen in the body. There can be 80 different types of health problems in the body. Some of the major issues like motor neuron disease, all this osteoarthritis, bone-related disorders like Parkinsonism. So these are the major issues which happens, when your Vata goes out of balance.
Okay. And it must be very, very relevant to ladies, really, because like the menstrual cycle is all to do with movement and the birth of children is to do with movement. So Vata must play a very big role in women's health.
Yes, it definitely plays a very good role. So the ladies who are Vata, whose body type is Vata, and if their Vata is not in balance, then what happens? They suffer with a lot of dysmenaria. So dysmenaria is the menstrual, like when you get your menstruation, there is a pain, cramp in your pelvic region. And there is delayed menstruation. They don't get their period on time. And in some ladies, it can be, a prolonged kind of period. So it lasts for around 10 to 12 days. So of course, Apan is very, very responsible doshas for a women's health.
So women who are experiencing period problems or maybe finding it very difficult to conceive and all these things, or irregular periods, definitely to take a look at their Vata would be, a major area there.
Yes, of course.
Okay, Dr. Naheed, that was incredibly informative. So thanks very much for that. I could hear the cars beeping in the background there. So Dr. Naheed is actually joining us from India at the moment. We're doing this recording in India. So hopefully you'll be back in Ireland soon. But thanks a million for that, Dr. Naheed. Dr. Brennan, is there anything you wanted to add to that before we turn to Dr. Rajvinder?
I think that was very eloquent, very, very clearly put. And it does give an insight into another layer or level of Ayurveda that starts to give insight into how sublime it is, really. So we see the various locations and functions of the different Vatas and their imbalance and how to balance them. So that was lovely, Dr. Naheed. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're going to... Here we go. Now we're going to turn to Dr. Rajvinder. Many of you know Dr. Rajvinder. She's an Ayurvedic doctor that practices Ayurveda in Lucan in County Dublin. She's been with us in the Ayurveda Centre since 2007, so she's got lots and lots of experience of people coming into her with different complaints and issues. So Dr. Rajvinder, we're talking about Vata here today. And just from a practical basis, what are the types of Vata conditions that people are coming into you with, and what are the general recommendations you make for Vata people?
Okay, thank you, Noel. So as you heard about Vata from Dr. Brannin and Dr. Naheed, Vata is a dosha that has the quality of air is like dry, light, and cold. So Vata people normally complain of cold hands and cold feet and low blood circulation and low blood pressure, low blood glucose, feeling dizzy. And because of that, their energy levels could be very kind of up and down. And so the other quality of Vata is quick and irregular. So the quickness is their mind. There's a lot of thoughts. Vata say, oh, I cannot quieten my mind. The thoughts goes in circle and over in their head. And then irregularity. Vata people find it very difficult to stick to routine. So because of that, their bowel movement is all over the place. Could be morning, could be evening, constipation, IBS, kind of irregular, kind of irritable bowel, bloating could be there. So fatigue is one of the chronic Vata conditions if Vata is out of balance. And then because Vata is the movement, so anything that moves in the body is because of the Vata. So circulation is the movement of blood. So circulatory related problems like low blood pressure, high blood pressure, anxiety is a big one. Vata people are natural warrior. They worry a lot. The small little things stir their mind a bit too much. And because of the active mind, their sleep is not good. So insomnia is a big one in Vata. So constipation, insomnia, memory, energy levels are down, tiredness, fatigue, and arthritis, joint pain, back pain, all these are Vata conditions. So yeah, so Vata kind of could have a lot of movement issues. So stiff in the morning or constipation or sometimes not hungry. All these are Vata problems. Yeah.
Okay. So that irregularity seems to be coming through there, and the coldness and the dryness. So I take it as usual with Ayurveda, we're looking at doing the opposite things to bring this back into balance. So what would be some of the, big recommendations that you would be making for Vata people?
Okay, because of the quickness, Vata people could be very quick to make decisions, so they take on board too much. So it's difficult for them to say no. They say yes they get excited very quickly, and they can take on too much on board out of their potential, and then later on they struggle to meet the deadline. So first thing, Vata need to slow down a little bit. So Vata need to ground themselves. And if Vata people are doing too much of physical activity, like too much of intense cardio or running or jogging, they need to go moderation. So slow pace exercises like Hatha yoga, pranayama, breathing exercises are very good for Vata people. And so when you're doing your yoga practice, focus on your breath a bit more and maybe do the pranayama longer. So grounding your mind, grounding your nervous system is very important because your nervous system is controlled by the Vata. And the second is regular meals. Don't skip your meal, have your breakfast, have your lunch, and have your dinner. And third thing is a good quality sleep. Vata people really benefit from going to bed early and have a proper sleep. Vata people are very sensitive people, so they might wake up in the middle of the night, they may be dreaming, but don't panic, just go back to the sleep. So those three pillars, good sleep, good food, and a good kind of moderate amount of exercise. And the oil massage is another one because oil has the quality opposite to the quality of air, light, dry, and cold. So warm oil massage is very grounding, and warm water, warm herbal teas are other way to deal with Vata.
Okay, I know Abhyangas tend to be really, really good for Vata people because that oil is very unctuous and it's also warm. And I've heard from people I have quite a bit of Vata in me as well, but I wouldn't be predominantly Vata. But I know some predominantly Vata people, and they just love doing the Abhyanga with the warm oil. But it has to be warm oil, and the room that they're doing it in has to be warm as well, because cold is obviously going to unsettle Vatas very, very quickly, So sesame oil is a good oil for Vata people?
Yes, sesame oil is very good oil for Vata, and we have a very nice blend called Vata massage oil because, as I said, Vata people mind is busy all the time, so it's very difficult for them to bring their mind into center, into the present situation, into the right now. So the best way to deal with that problem is through the senses, through the aroma oils. So for Vata people, smelling nice aroma oils. For example, we have a blend called Vata aroma oil, which is fennel, lavender, lemongrass. It's very settling blend for Vata people. So that's what I ask my patients to wear aroma oil on your wrist, or before you go to sleep, smell some aroma oil. So sesame oil mixed with Vata aroma oil. Otherwise, the blend Vata massage oil is nice because nose is the gateway to your brain. So that's where you can get your nervous system.
Okay. Now, when it comes to food, we have the 6 tastes that we have. So which of those tastes is going to be good for Vata, settling for Vata people?
Okay, the 6 tastes like sweet, sour, salty, and the pungent, bitter, and estrogen. So the first 3 tastes, sweet, sour, and salty, are very good taste for Vata people because they have moisture in them, so they are not very drying. And the second, they are grounding, heavy tastes, so they are good to balance the light element of Vata. And so the sweet, salty, and naturally occurring in the foods like rice and wheat and grains are naturally sweet and good quality unrefined salt, and the sour kind of fruits and vegetables, these are more kind of balancing for Vata people.
Okay, and I take it then that also because Vata is cold in nature, that, I take it that things like salads and cold pasta and cold food is going to be quite aggravating for Vata. And really Vata people, especially in the Vata season, which is the autumn time of the year, I mean, nice warm soups and nice warm meals with a bit of heaviness to them is going to benefit them.
Absolutely. Vata people, because that is the cold is one of the quality of the air. When you go out, you feel cold, you don't really want to get out. So that's where you don't really want to put the cold food in your gut, because your gut is going to get that shock as you get it when you go into the cold weather. So Vata people benefit a lot from warm cooked meals with mild spices. So if you're new to the spices, just use the blend called Vata Churna in your food, and healthy fats like cooking with the ghee, coconut oil, so good quality fat in your diet, and warm meals. So try to avoid salads and leftovers and cold food as much as possible. So be more sad, yeah.
Okay. And then one thing that I notice a lot now is to do with exercise. And I kind of have an issue over exercise nowadays, because it seems to me that people either do no exercise or they do too much exercise. And I notice from the TV and programs that there's this thing about, pushing yourself to your limits and, doing really extreme exercises. Like I look at things like Ireland's Fittest Family, and I mean, I don't really relate fitness to health. And I think from a Vata point of view, what level of exercise is good for a Vata person?
Vata really benefit from, as I said earlier, gentle exercises. So Vata shouldn't go for like 10K, 5K, that kind of run. It's extreme. When you're young, you do it, but you later on, I see that in my patients, the pattern, later on, it shows up in your body, either osteoporosis or back pain or arthritis. Something will come up in the physiology. So that's what Ayurveda is there, to give you that knowledge, to educate you about your body type, about your vulnerabilities. So be moderate. Vata should always be in kind of on the gentle side. So as I was saying about the breathing, because Vata is nervous system. So gentle yoga exercises are more benefit. A brisk walk is good, or a gentle jog. That's it. But don't push yourself out of your potential. I see that in the young girls when they are doing those 10K run or way too much of weightlifting and exercise, their hormones are all over the place. They lose their periods, or they lose their sleep and things. I see that in one patient particularly, like I gave her some herbs as well, but just asking her to reduce the amount of exercises, the running she was doing. And when she did that, her periods immediately kind of came back. So you need to be more kind of sensible about your body type and what kind of workouts you do.
Yeah, exactly. Vata is movement anyway, so there's all that movement in you already. I remember this woman that I knew, and she was a very Vata person. You could tell by looking at her, very thin frame, very quick moving mind. And then she told me that after work she used to go to a spin class, and I thought, oh my God, this woman is running around all day and then getting up on a bike and pedaling like mad for an hour or whatever it is. And then she told me she couldn't sleep and she was worried and anxious all the time. And I'm thinking, these are all Vata things, and this spin class is putting your Vata out of balance. Now, sometimes people don't like to hear that because they're into their exercises, they're into the things, but this Ayurveda is not about what you like to hear. It's about a perspective on life, really, So I think moderate exercise is very, very good. And, I see professional athletes and professional runners, and I don't equate that to health. And, we see that, professional athletes can have a shorter life expectancy. They have all types of problems when they get older. They have arthritis. They have all different types of issues, when they're, and I'm not saying old, I'm talking about when they're going into their 40s and 50s. So we need to be careful about the level of exercise that we do. No exercise, that's not good, not doing any exercise, but over-exercising, particularly for Vata people. And I probably will be criticized for saying this, but I feel particularly for women as well, that I think the possibilities of going very far out of balance for women doing extreme exercise is possibly the damage could be more than for men in relation to obviously things like periods and fertility and all that. Would that be a fair enough comment to make, Dr.
Oh, absolutely. There is a proper routine when a woman is menstruating. So Ayurveda say for the first 2 days of your cycle, you shouldn't do any heavy work. Like in the old time, tradition was, even though there is plus and minuses to the tradition, but tradition was women will go in a kind of a quiet place of the house and she will stay there. She wouldn't cook and she wouldn't engage into any activities. So the plus point for that was because your physiology is going through a lot at that time. So you get rest. So you sleep it more and you eat like easy to digest food. Around that time when your Vata is out of balance, that's why you crave a lot of sugary or pizza or chocolates more. But if your Vata is in balance and you're looking after your Vata, you let the physiology, your body does the job, and then you come out of the cycle as a kind of the detox is done, or you're ready for the next phase of your cycle, all the formation of egg and everything. So during the cycle, first few days is better you rest and don't do too much of jogging or running or strong exercises. Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose everybody has to make their own decisions about how they want to live their lives. And certainly TV ads and things like that are pointing women in a completely different direction than taking it easy when they're having their periods. But anyway, we're here to give out Ayurvedic advice, and whether you want to take it or not is up to yourselves, you know. Okay, Dr. Rizvinder, so moderate exercise, plenty of rest for women when they're menstruating, and warm foods and good routine and abhyangas and all those things will help balance Vata. And sorry, Dr. Rizvinder?
Yeah, so Vata people are also, on the plus side of Vata people, are very creative people. So they are naturally artistic, they're naturally healer, they're natural teacher. So it's better for your Vata, for your nervous system, you engage yourself into that kind of activities as well. And when we are talking about the exercise, go into a park, go to a kind of a green area where you walk in the forest, you listen to the birds, you look at the flowers. That's very healing. So that kind of exercise, that kind of nature walk is brilliant for Vata people. So it is like connecting to yourself, and through that you find your balance.
Okay, Dr. Rizvinder, so thanks very much for that. I just want to share my screen here with people before we finish up on this, and I want to bring you to our website, ayurveda.ie, so you can see the spelling of it up there. And if we go over to this menu option, Ayurveda, and we can come down to Vata here. So if you want to read up more about Vata, you can find quite a lot of information there as well, about the different subdoshas that Dr. Naheed talked about, and what balances Vata and what imbalances Vata. And then if you want to do your own body type test to give you an idea or maybe of what dosha you are, there's a body type test that you can do there as well, and that'll give you some idea about that. Let's just see. That's okay. The internet's a little slow. Yeah, so you can fill up these things about type of hair, skin, all of these things, you know. Okay, so that's on our website, ayurveda.ie. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our Q&A. We've had our three doctors give a good explanation of the qualities of Vata, so you can start sending your questions in. We will favor questions that are to do with the topic that we've covered today, so Vata conditions or questions you have about, any questions you have about what we spoke about here. However, we will endeavour to answer as many questions as possible regardless of what.
Of practical physical existence that we can use to keep ourselves balanced. Now, as we balance Vata, our prana starts to settle, and as our prana starts to settle, then obviously we are more settled in mind, which allows us to be far more engaged in what we have to do, and even at a deeper level, we start to get more settled in our feelings, and so we have more positive emotions and more capacity to actually connect with and interact with others on a fine feeling level. And ultimately, if we get most integrated, most settled, we actually start to unfold much more of that inner potential and sensitively actually start to manifest our purpose, which is joy and fulfillment and integration in life. And so it's not just having a massage, it's actually knowing all of these things that can influence the whole of our life. for better health.
Okay, Dr. Brennan, that's fantastic.
Okay, great. So let's just get Dr. Rajinder there. Hi, Dr. Rajinder. Dr. Raj. Dr. Rajinder. Okay, maybe she stepped away from her computer. Let's just see if Dr. Brennan came on. Oh, Dr. Brennan is there, yeah. Hi, Dr. Don.
Hi, Noel. Hi,
How you
everyone.
doing? Very good, very good. So I'm not sure what happened to Dr. Rajinder. She's there all right, but maybe she stepped away from her computer. Hi, Dr. Raj. Okay, so she's not there. So Don, you can, there's lots, I think there's a few questions in there that you might want to look at. So that's our lecture on Vata. And I think a lot of people will recognize Vata in themselves because it's so common, and it's so common to be out of balance in it. And it's, you know, just because life is the way that it is, it's mostly people recognize when that Vata goes out of balance. So, and it gives rise to so many different difficulties when it does go out of balance. So Don, you go ahead.
I'm mainly a Vata person. Recently, I suffer from hot and painful feet at night, which affects my sleep. Is this caused by Vata out of balance? Margaret, a very interesting question, and it's based on a physiological fact that actually, as we evolved over the countless generations, we slept when it went both dark and cold. And so, in fact, it is easier to get off to sleep if we're that little bit cold. The bedroom, maybe about 18 degrees, is certainly hot enough. But a physiological mechanism we have when we go to bed to cool us down is that the blood circulation to the feet and hands greatly increases, because that pushes the heat out to the periphery. And from there, naturally, things would have got cooler. The cooler peripheries would have cooled down the blood, which would have cooled down the body, which would have helped get us off to sleep. So what you're noticing is the fact that your feet at night can heat up because of this problem. And you've certainly come to notice it, and it's even painful now. And the fact that it's painful, pain is usually associated with Vata, and the peripheries, the hands and feet, are often affected by Vata. So it's likely to be a Vata issue. Certainly an oil massage before bed. And sometimes people find a hot bath very helpful for sleep as well, because the contrast, they get out of the hot bath and suddenly they're in the cold, their body cools down, and that cooling influence helps them to get off to sleep. So that's an interesting one, Margaret. Francis Jones talks about homogenized milk, and very well done, Francis, for raising this. Homogenized milk is not a great idea. And in the 90s, a study was published that showed that when you homogenize milk, you spin it at a great speed. And the purpose of that is to break big fat globules down to small fat globules. And what that means is that we no longer get the lovely rising of the cream to the top of the milk, which as a children we used to love to get there first, to put it on our Kellogg's cornflakes and have a nice creamy breakfast. So now that doesn't happen anymore because they've homogenized milk. When they do that, they break the big fat globules into tiny fat globules. Now, the problem with that is that in the core of the tiny fat globules, a little enzyme can get trapped. And what now happens is, with large fat globules, we would, in our gut, be very careful the way we broke them down and absorbed them. But the little fat globules go straight across the lining of the gut and are absorbed into the bloodstream. And in the bloodstream, that toxic protein, that enzyme, is released, and that contributes to the damage of the blood vessels, which causes heart disease and strokes. So if ever it were possible to have non-homogenized milk, and even ideally non-pasteurized, non-homogenized, but I don't recommend that because it's illegal in Ireland and I don't want to be in jail, because they've pasteurized the milk to prevent diabetes and brucellosis. And so anyway, that's about milk. I think when you're talking about the plant milks, it's different. You don't have that situation of that enzyme getting trapped in the little globules. So yes, that there is that need to mix the water and the oil together, but it's a different feature which I wouldn't be too concerned about.
There is one unhomogenized milk that was available. It was in Tesco's at one stage. I think it was called Lullaby milk, and it was actually they milk the cows at a certain time of the day as well. And but it's very hard to get unhomogenized milk. But it was I haven't seen it for a while, but maybe it's still there, or maybe somebody knows if it's there. Maybe somebody might be able to type it into the chat box if they're aware of where you can get it.
How do you balance if you are Vata and Pitta? Not difficult. Pitta people, they get overheated, as we'll discover in the next lesson, and you'll learn all about Noel and and how he keeps nicely chilled. You see, because if you overheat, you want to keep chilled like Noel, and that is through fun, and laughter, and joy, and agreeable company, and nice meals, and
swimming.
Pardon, Noel?
Plenty of swimming. Plenty of swimming.
Swimming. Gosh, yes. So there are features which can be used to balance Pitta, while, of course, Vata is to do with movement, the way we move through life, And so our routine becomes very important. Vata is to do with movement. Our rest is very important. Vata is to do with cold. We keep warm. Vata is dry. We use stress meal. So you see how we're bringing the balance? It's using the opposite qualities. And so we can balance Vata through those opposite qualities while we're balancing Pitta through its opposite qualities. So it's quite feasible to do things that will balance both.
Yeah, and maybe take a look at which one is the major imbalance that you have, I mean, if it's insomnia, let's say like a Pitta imbalance could be a bit of anger or a bit of impatience, and a Vata imbalance would be insomnia. Now, if I had those two things, what I'd be trying to do is get rid of the insomnia, because I think a good night's sleep would have a big effect on your anger levels as well. So your insomnia is your Vata. So I'd be looking at balancing Vata first to get that, to get that settled, and then you can have a good night's sleep, and then you can work on the Pitta things. But Vata will drive Pitta out of balance as well. Vata moves the other doshas. It tends to be the one that you try to balance first. If your Vata is out of balance, it's going to knock the other things out of balance as well. So try to get that one back into balance first, and then work on the other ones. You don't have to work on everything at the one time. It's, but you just work on the main ones, And is constipation a Kapha or a Vata problem? I would have said it was a Vata problem, Dr. Brennan.
Absolutely, yeah, movement problem. Don Loche asks, the osteoarthritis keeps being referred to, and he's interested in ankylosing spondylitis. And yes, it's an interesting one. Definitely a Vata condition. You can see a drying and a fusing and pain. And so it could well be helped, Donald. It's a matter of, you have a dry bamboo and you try to bend it and breaks. And on the other hand, if you actually went about moistening that bamboo, by virtue of that moistening effect, you could bend it. A bit like that, the bone starting to fuse and then get very painful in moving. Whereas with balancing Vata, we would use a lot of oiling and a lot of heat and then a gentle movement. And that sort of influence could make things a little bit easier. But that would come down to specific treatments. There's a Katibasti, which would be an oil preparation heated over and applied over the low back, or applied over the area where the ankylosing spondylitis is. But in the other strategies of your lifestyle and your diet, balancing Vata and having nourishment, and then using herbs to help remove the toxins that contribute to the problem, could all be
helpful. Yeah, and there's a very good webinar on our website that we did last year with the three doctors, and it's an arthritis webinar, and it's on our website. You can rent it out. It's about 2 hours long or so, and there's very valuable information on the Ayurvedic approach to treating arthritis on that. Dr. Rajvinder is back with us. Hi, Raj.
Hello, Dr. Don.
Welcome back.
You disappeared for a while.
Oh, you're in the blue tonight.
Well, yeah. Are you in the purple?
No, not the purple. I'm gone brown.
It looks purple. Great.
So there's your first question, Dr. Ritvinder. Is dark chocolate good for Vata people?
Oh,
Too bitter, and a lot of bitter taste is too drying for Vata people. That's why you avoid it in excess. But again, everything in moderation, because I understand chocolate is a big one in in the West. So a little square, if you can stick to that. Like some people say, either I am a whole bar or none. So if you are one of those, then it's you try start cutting it.
Yeah, it's none. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about cramps and how to treat them as they wake me at night?
Magnesium oil spray on your legs, try that. That's easy one to start with. Or sometimes a magnesium deficiency, take magnesium as a supplement, minimum 300 milligrams a day, and see that settle. Otherwise, more nerve tonics like ashwagandha, brahmi, things like that later on. First, try magnesium.
and Nabanita mentions the triphala powder, but it's not quite enough to get her a good clearing in the morning. It can be normal enough to go a few times, Navita, if you're very pitta, but that would be going a few times, twice or three times, and having a good elimination. Whereas this does suggest maybe with the wind more Vata. So what you want to do is you want to balance Vata and the strategies we're talking about today, but also you want to help your digestion. And we're talking about that, I think it's the last lecture in this course. So you also must focus on balancing your Vata. And certainly if you're using pulses in your diet, you should include a little asafoetida in their cooking, just a tinge to help the wind. Fennel is a good spice as well. So I think balance the Vata, strengthen the digestion, and then the specific things like the triphala can be helpful. The use of flax seeds. Make sure you're drinking plenty. So try those things.
I don't have access to the questions because I joined a bit late. So
Oh yeah, sorry. As high BP is a Vata problem, Raj, is it caused by Vata being out of balance, or is it more a fundamental problem? That was the next one.
what is it?
High blood pressure.
High blood pressure. High blood pressure.
Or
Yeah.
is it more fundamental problem?
High blood pressure is like a movement in the body. So anything that moves is definitely Vata imbalance. So on the deep imbalance surface, on the long term, it is a Vata, which is anxiety, active mind. But it could be a Pitta problem as well, because on the surface level, it could be a Pitta problem because of ambitions over expectations, pushing yourself too hard, not resting properly, the bedtimes are not proper, and all of that. Yeah, so on the deeper level, yeah, it will be Vata issue. So more meditation, more breathing exercises, nature's walk, walking bare feet on the grass. So things like that, ground yourself a bit.
And Mimmy Green asks, can one be Vata and heavy set? A very interesting question. Yes, because it's quite possible. And in fact, sometimes because of a Vata imbalance, people compensate. They're stressed out, their mind is getting too busy, so they comfort eat. And then with the comfort eating, they become heavier and heavier. But if someone has naturally always been heavy with a big build, it suggests they're more kapha in nature, which we'll talk about in 2 talks time. And they can still have a Vata imbalance though, even as a kapha person. They can still put themselves under so much pressure, tension, with grief, and end up with anxiety. So it's interesting to see what's my nature and what's my imbalance there.
Yeah, it's important people realize that, like, you don't have to be a Vata person to have a Vata imbalance. You're more likely to have a Vata imbalance. You're more likely for it to go out of balance if you're very Vata. But then again, it depends on what's going on in your life. You may be a Vata person, but are living a very comfortable life. Maybe you were born into a wealthy family and you had not too much stress and strain. And then you could be a Kapha person, but born into a very stressful life, and that drives your Vata out of balance. So anybody can have a Vata imbalance, and but it's more likely if you're already very high Vata so you have to watch these things. There's a very interesting comment there from somebody. I don't know who it is because they haven't got their name there. It's Hawaii P20 Pro. Totally new to Ayurveda. The information is fantastic. Vata 8, Pitta 7, Kapha 2, ex-elite footballer, chronic illness. I have every symptom you say. So I mentioned about excessive exercise in that video, in the talk there. And like, I really believe it. Like, people are not being told, you know, about the damage that they can do with this excessive exercises when they're in their, you know, their 20s and 30s. I mean, there's just this big tendency nowadays for people to do so much, and it can lead to serious difficulties later on in your life, particularly if you're a Vata type of person, you know. So we need to be careful, and you need to be self-referral. You need to listen to your body. And, you know, it's true. I know so many guys, friends of mine, that, you know, we're big into Gaelic football, we're big into different things, and they've all got these serious issues now. You know, I'm not saying everybody that does it, but just be careful, you know, about doing excessive exercise, particularly for Vata people, is not recommended in Ayurveda. It's not. Sorry, Don.
And I think, you know, just to add to what you're saying, Noel, there's certainly an awful lot you can do to bring back your balance if you are in that situation. And I would seriously suggest you take an interest in balancing your Vata. And if you've not succeeded in resolving the issues, I mean, that's why we're there. So book in with either of us. And I'll take Mary J. Ward's pins and needles. Yes, thinning hair, hair fall connected to imbalanced Vata. That's imbalanced Vata. Pins and needles are imbalanced Vata, and numbness in the feet, imbalance in Vata. Catherine Magnin, and maybe I'll give this to you, Raj, because you're the living exponent of this. Um, um, in thinning hair, hair fall connected to imbalanced Vata, realizing the atrophy is dry Vata condition. Any tips, please, especially at this time of year? You see, I can have it all with you because they look at your hair and they say, yes, you got it right. So you tell.
I don't think Dr. Ritvin's hair is thinning.
It's thickened. And it's she's the one to tell people how to do it.
Well, hair and nails are the byproduct of your bones. If you're healthy bones, and I think at the end of the these lessons, at some stage we have 7 tissues. We are talking about the 7 layer of the tissues when we eat food. So the first thing that is made as a byproduct of digestion is a rasa, and then blood tissue, and then muscles, and then fat, and then bones and bone marrows. If the rasa is not right, which means you are not having vital energy rich food. So vital energy rich food, lack means microwave food, frozen food, canned food. So there's no energy in that food. So you need to have a food rich of nutrition, fresh green beans, lentils, variety in your diet. That's how you get variety to your body, to your nutrition, to your different parts and different tissues. And then you have healthy hair and nails and everything. So that could be deficiency. And that's, we heard about dry and cold and light element. Vata people are already very dryness in their joints and their bones. So that's why their hair are quite thin. And then because of the light element, if they're eating more lighter and they're eating more cold food all the time, their bones doesn't get much nutrition. And of course that appear in their hair and their dry skin and all of that. So Vata people need lots of healthy fats, opposite to the dry element, warm food, and proper substantial meals. So that's how you keep your hair and quite happy and healthy and thick, and don't let the thinning happen. And proper oiling your hair. Vata hair oil is very good. Once a week you oil your scalp with this Vata hair oil, and it has a lot of bringraj and lovely herbs which promote the hair growth. And then we have if it's thinning too much, you might look into silica, because silica is a good supplement for the hair. And you look into healthy hair and nail formula, which is brilliant. It works through your liver, stimulating the liver to produce more iron in the body and for more other microminerals in the body. And that's how it nourishes your scalp, and it helps with the hair growth. And the rosemary is a very good oil, or there are different oil for stimulation if the bald patch or anything like that is there. And if you have more time, you're more committed to it, you can do hair packs and things like that. yogurt mask, providing more nutrition to the roots of the hair. There's a lot you can do. Actually, had treated few ladies now with the patch, and their skin are their hair are thriving now. They're so happy that they got their hair back. So you can do it.
Okay.
Depends on how far is the damage and everything like that, and you have to work for it. There is no quick fix. Dr. Rennie touching
That's go this way back.
There's lots of people putting in about getting unpasteurized milk. I see John Shields from Dundalk, a friend of mine there, says Smith Family Farm, Castle Bellingham sell farm fresh milk. Okay, well, I head up that way once or twice a week, so I'll definitely, maybe John, send me an email about, sure, I can Google them. I'm sure I'll find them if I Google them, where exactly they are, you know. And then it seems to be quite readily available in Scotland. And HM milk from Jersey, from Morrison's in Scotland, is people can get unhomogenized milk. Dan McCarthy, is cold water swimming good in winter? You'd have to be self-referral there, Dan. I think, you know, just see how you feel about it. I mean, I tried to get Dr. Brennan in swimming in the wintertime, but he won't go. But he was in before me this year. I'll give him that much. But it depends on how it affects you, really. You know, I love swimming. I absolutely love it. I'm not saying I swim in the winter, but you know, I just love swimming. And
I'm still getting over the fact that I went in.
Right.
Following on what you were saying, Margaret McCarthy saying Lullaby Milk in Cork, the cows belong to the Burns family near Kanturk. So that's another one.
I think that was for sale in Tesco's at one stage. I think I saw Lullaby Milk in Tesco's at one stage. But
that's probably not unhomogenized. It's probably is homogenized.
No, there was one in Tesco's that was unhomogenized. I remember looking at it and thinking, God, that's strange, because it's very difficult to get that, you know. So anyway, Waitrose sell it as well. We don't have Waitrose in Ireland, but in the UK there they have it, so you can get it.
Yeah, Waitrose sounds good.
Is goat's milk better than cow's milk? Yeah, different strokes for different folks. I mean, it depends on how they treated the cows as well as the goats. But you know, one of the problems with milk is the industrialized farming and the cruelty involved in it. And that has to influence the milk. So that's why we go organic, because at least there's probability that the cows were better treated. Goat's milk is a lighter milk, and so it would be more appropriate for Kappa people, whereas the cow's milk is very heavy for Kappas. So they're different.
Recently I've discovered, and I'm sharing coconut milk cappuccino. People probably kill me for saying that, but I like coffee. I drink maybe one coffee a day, maybe, you know, and I find that using the coconut milk, it's lighter. It's much lighter on the digestion. It mightn't be the same for everybody, but coconut is very good for Pitta people. Coconut's one of the best things that Pitta people can take, really, you know. So I mean, caffeine obviously has an opposite quality to what coconut milk would have, but they seem to balance each other out, and it's a very nice drink, you know.
They're interesting again, you know. It's not necessarily that we can condemn any food, but we have to understand the nature of the food and the nature of the person. And coffee is a lovely idea, a lovely example, because coffee came into Europe as a medicine, and it actually is good for the chest and the lungs. There's an ingredient in it that's very similar to a medicine used for asthma, but asthma would be a kapha problem, and so the caffeine would be quite stimulating for a sluggish kapha. So in the case of kapha, I wouldn't be saying you mustn't have coffee. I might be saying have it in moderation. But I would say for a Vata or a Pitta, I wouldn't be recommending it, because it's exciting, it's stimulating, and certainly Vata doesn't need that. And if you have a coffee after 3 in the afternoon, you have to remember that 50% of the caffeine is in your circulation, it's in your body at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you wake up then, you know, you did it willfully. So just be aware of those things.
Yeah. Do you remember the neighboring food website that we were saying it last times? I think Janice
asked about that. Someone put that in. I can't
Janice,
remember what it was.
Janice put that in. I don't know if Janice is here. Janice, you can put it again.
I couldn't get on it. Neighbors food that I tried getting on it, and it wouldn't come up, that link.
So someone is looking for an Aerobatic product for constipation. Trifala might be.
Yeah.
Trifla might be a good one.
Take it at bedtime with water, and I mean, you start with, we have a herbal tablet, MA505, Trifla with Rose. You can start with 1 and move up to maybe 4 until you get effect, and then come back down and take it for a while to re-educate your bowel to do its job. But do remember, if you're dehydrated, you contribute to constipation. If your Vata is way out of balance, it will contribute to constipation. So there are other things to think about.
Yeah, and it's okay. Yeah.
Someone asked about thyroid. There's again, Dr. Brennan did a whole webinar on the thyroid. It's on our website under webinars. That's if you have thyroid issues, like what's recommendation for thyroid? Like it depends on what's wrong with your thyroid, really, but that thyroid webinar, if you have issues with it, might be a good place for you to start to look at that. It's about 2 hours long.
GI is asking magnesium for 2-year-old. No, I wouldn't give magnesium to a 2-year-old. First, try to do the massage to the baby, almond oil or sesame oil, and then see if it's settled. Otherwise, there are different supplements for the children that age group. Probably you can get something iron or more strength to the baby, but see if he's eating right. Look into his food, into his digestion as well. Try these things first. Massage mostly is great for children, and it's settled a lot of the Vata in them. So the baby might be having a lot of Vata imbalance in his system, may not be sleeping very well because of the food cramps and all. So I would recommend massage first.
There's a question about autoimmune diseases, and autoimmune diseases are what's called AMA, which we'll come across when we're doing the digestive lecture. And AMA are byproducts or toxins that come from disturbance in the digestion and metabolism, and that disturbs the autoimmune system then. So that will be, a contributory cause to autoimmune conditions.
There's an interesting question, Don. I think maybe, would it be okay for someone to take Amrit Kalash that is on the treatment for cancer?
Yeah, it's fine.
I would, yes, I agree. Because this research showed that there were less side effects from the treatment therapy.
Chemotherapy, there's less side effects, and it doesn't interfere with the actual treatment itself either. So
that is a question, though, that the oncologists are afraid it might, because they're trying to create great damage in the body to the cancer cells. Yeah. And they're afraid that the Amrit Kalash might protect cancer cells, but there's no evidence to show that happens. And anyway, herbs are different in their effects to medicines. And but
at the same time, your oncologist mightn't be too happy, or might say no, or might know nothing about it and just err on the side of caution and say no. So
yeah, and you have to listen to your oncologist, obviously. Oh, I'm way behind. A lot of these questions were answered.
Yeah. So somebody said living with the wrong personality in your household throw the balance in your body for long term. Yes, definitely, because you are living opposite to your true nature and you're trying to suppress a lot of your personality. If you have to live, then you just have to step back a bit and start having yourself in the routine of getting up early in the morning, bedtime, eating your main meal, massage, walk, so that you can reduce the damage, because you're very unhappy in that situation, and of course that doesn't help. So for long term, it's a big shock to your nervous system if you're very unhappy, and then create a lot of anxiety in the system. So that increase Vata in the body. So it has damage on that side, increase Vata in the system.
Dan McCarthy is an interesting one there. He says dairy products are for calves, not humans. Well, it's interesting because milk in the Vedic tradition is very, very revered, but they had very strict rules about milk and milking cows, and calves were not taken away from their parents. The calf was not taken away from the cow. And in actual fact, the cow wasn't milked when the calf was born first. And it was only after a certain period of time that the cow was allowed to be milked. And they had rules about milking the cow. You actually used to milk the cow when the calf was suckling at the same time, so that the mother gave the milk up freely, But Ayurveda is not anti-milk, but it is anti-industrial milk, and it's anti, any cruelty to animals or anything like that. But I can tell you, cows and human beings have had virtually a symbiotic relationship for about 10,000 years. And you look back in any cultures, particularly the Irish culture, and you'll find that cows were revered. And I've been in India where on farms where, cows are nearly seen as being gods nearly, they're just treated so well, and every part of them is respected, and even cows' urine, everything is used for different purposes, and the cows are treated better than people, so it's all relative. But one thing is for sure is that cows are not going to go back to being wild. Cows have grown up with human beings. They won't survive in the wilderness. So if you're getting rid of all dairy, then you're basically getting rid of cows as well, because nobody's going to keep one as a pet. So it's just a matter of balance. I take milk myself, I take dairy products myself, but the purer you can get it, and ideally, as consciousness rises and people take more interest in what they eat and what they put in their body, then milk producers will come along that produce a much better quality product than what we have. So that would be my take on that.
Did you answer the one about diabetes?
No, not yet.
Well, I'll answer it then. So what we're thinking about is diabetes, and Rashmi, and a general warning, I suppose, a general caution, should I say. We're not here talking about home remedies. We're talking about a tradition of health, which is to empower you to create a balance in your life so that you're healthy. So there's no magic bullets. There's no quick fix. We don't take a herb for this, that, or the other. We use herbs as part of an overall program of healing and health, because herbs are very helpful in that and more powerful in that paradigm. Thinking about herbal powders for diabetics, well, we know there's two types of diabetes, and Ayurveda always describe two types of diabetes. One is Vata type, and that relates more to the juvenile onset one, as we call it, which is more the insulin dependent one. And then there's the later onset diabetes, which is becoming younger and younger. It's happening to people nowadays, but that's much more of a kapha problem. So you then have to establish what are you dealing with. So are you needing to balance Vata, or are you needing to balance kapha? And then you can start thinking about, the whole lifestyle and the diet and the digestion, because you could argue it's a digestive problem, since the pancreas is a digestive organ as well. It's a concept of not being able to metabolize properly the blood sugar. So digestive issues. So it's a broad canvas, and the more that you bring to bear in terms of health strategies, the more you can help your diabetic situation. And if it's the kapha type of diabetes, more the later onset type, you could actually heal it using these strategies. But if you're prepared to use Ayurveda in that general sense, then we would be prepared to say that the herbal glucostat is a combination of herbs that's available on the website that Noel has made available. And that would be the specific one we would use most widely, probably for diabetes. Glucose. So glucostat.
There's that web address in there, neighborhoodfood.ie. I'll try clicking on it a bit later on and see does it come up. Someone asked, Muireann asked, what's the difference between Javen Prash and Amrit Kalash? Well, they're really two completely different products, even though they're both rasayanas. But Javen Prash is it's a very traditional rasayana. It's meant to be very good for the lungs. It's very strengthening for the lungs. Amrit Kalash is, I think there's a bit more involved in Amrit Kalash in some ways. It was the first product that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi brought out when he began to revive Ayurveda, And Don, maybe you have something to say on that.
Sorry, Noel, I was reading the things. What was the question again?
The difference between Javen Prash and Amrit Kalash, other than the price. Amrit Kalash is a lot more expensive, but I think there's a lot more in it as well.
Yeah. I mean, they take 20 pounds of raw ingredients, and they cook them and boil them and cook them and add juices, and decoct another group and bring them all together. And it takes well over 2 days of just the pure cookery process in the Amrit Kalash. Very ancient recipe, produced actually in a very, very high quality facility, with a lot of it mechanized, but always following the ancient steps. And so it's a much more general tonic. It's creating ojas overall the body, which nourishes all the cells, increases the immunity, and improves the health generally. And then Javen Prash is in a similar category of herbs. The category is Rasayan or tonics. So Javen Prash would also be a tonic, but Javen Prash is a more specific tonic to the lungs. It contains a lot more pipali, which is a herb that it's long pepper, and it has a very beneficial effect for the lungs. So, that's why we would also be recommending both of them, but also the Javen Prash as a preparation to help strengthen us in the COVID epidemic.
Okay, we're getting very close to the end here. We've answered a lot of questions.
Anna said her parcel arrived. She's looking forward to using the sesame oil, and will it moisturize her skin as well? Yes, Anna, that's what the oil is doing. So you don't need to put too much of strong soap to take it off. Just when you shower, just use plain water, and then that stay on the skin, and that keep your skin moist. So you don't need any body lotion or anything after it.
Good.
Fazia asks with for advancing multiple sclerosis, tremors, fatigue, what do you recommend? A consultation?
Yeah.
We don't. It's too far to just talk about a herbal tonic. There's everything involved. Consultation would be a good idea, Fazia.
So Kalpana says seasons affect the body. So how do you differentiate if it's the dosha or the seasonal changes affecting people? Well, absolutely, seasons affect the body, but seasons affect the doshas, and the seasons are different doshas. And we cover that in the Rhythms of Nature in the 5th lecture here. So the summertime, obviously, heat is up. So that's pitta. So that's going to increase pitta in people. And the autumn time is vata. So that's going to be increased vata. And the winter time is kapha. But so the seasons, like everything, are affecting your doshas, like the smells, the foods, the colors, like everything in the universe is made up of earth, air, fire, water, and space. So everything is affecting the doshas in one way or another, and the seasons certainly affect the doshas as well. So, but it's the seasons affecting the doshas that then the person feels that, so it's all completely interconnected. But we have a whole lecture on that, lecture 5 on that, so you can find out more about that. What is good to take for hay fever?
MA1793.
Yeah, but and it's also, I think the detox program we did earlier on in the spring would be, hay fever, it's AMA building up in the system. The time to deal with that is much earlier on in the year before it becomes symptomatic. But there are herbs.
You will hear more about in the kapha lesson. We will talk.
The kapha thing, so
kapha thing.
And it's AMA as well, and digestion, it's all tied in,
And warts as well. The kapha lesson is worth listening to.
Yeah. And somebody can take the Javen Prash and how to make it more palatable. Mix into hot water. Some people say they mix into hot water and a bit of almond milk, and they make a drink out of it. So you can make a drink if you find, because it could be a bit dry and hard to chew if you not like the taste of Indian gooseberry amla in it. But you do get used to it. But if it's too dry, mix it with some hot water or mix into your porridge, whatever way it's easy.
I always find that question amazing, because I absolutely love the taste of Javen Prash, and I love the taste of Amrit Kalash as well. And sometimes people get Amrit Kalash and they email me and say, "Oh God, I can't eat this stuff." I just can't relate to it because it's so beautiful, But mix it with water. Or what about mixing it with a bit of honey, Dr. Rajvinder? Would that be?
It already has honey.
It has honey in it already.
So it depends. Sometimes every batch is different. It could be a bit dry as well. So that's, people find it difficult. And it is a strong astringent taste, but aftertaste is very sweet. So if you drink coffee, you mix into your coffee instead of sugar.
Actually, that's a good point you said there. Every batch is different. I do get emails from people saying, "Oh, the Amrit Kalash is completely different than the last one." It's a cooked food. It's a recipe. It's cooked. The ingredients, depending on when they're harvested and which farm they came from or which wilderness area they came from, it's always going to turn out different. It's like cooking a meal. It's never going to be exactly the same, but same ingredients. But you know, they're different, so it turns out different. So don't worry about it if it's drier or harder or more liquidy or whatever. It's just dependent on the temperature and dependent on what way the ingredients were, you know. Amrit Kalash is delicious. That's from Francis Jones. Thank you, Francis. I'm agreeing with you on that one, you know. Okay, everybody, that's absolutely fantastic. So our next lesson is next Tuesday, and it's on Pitta. So Pitta is fire and water. So have a think about the qualities of fire and water. They may seem to be the opposites, actually, you know, fire and water, but they can exist together as acidity and transformation. And Pitta is all about transformation and heat and all of those things in the body. You can read up about it on our website. Go to Ayurveda and then go to Ayurveda again and look at the dosha Pitta, and you can read up about the dosha Pitta. So that's great. Thanks everybody for coming on. Lots of thank yous coming in. Unless any of the doctors have anything they want to finish on.
Just thank you very much for all your thanks.
Yeah, I think you'll be away next week, Don, will you?
I'm on the holidays.
You're on your holidays. Okay. Well,
join us.
I'm going off to Mulranny for a week.
Good. Very good.
Oh,
Don't bother try stressing out to join us. If it's easy for you, join us. If not, your words of wisdom are on the tape anyway, you know. And I'm sure Dr. Rajvinder will be able to handle all of the questions, you know. But if you are free and you're bored on your holidays, you're welcome to come in and answer a few questions. But probably you won't be.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, that's fantastic. Have a really good weekend. I think if you're living in Ireland, the weather is pretty good for the weekend. We had a fantastic day yesterday. We had a great morning this morning and a lot of rain this afternoon, but the weather forecast looks like it's going to be very good for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So spend plenty of time outdoors. It doesn't matter what dosha you are. Outdoors is great for every dosha. And protect yourself if you're out in the sun, particularly if you're Pitta, but enjoy the outdoors and enjoy nature and enjoy all the beautiful greenery and walk by the beach or whatever you can do, you know. Okay, everybody, namaste. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you very much for coming along. Thanks to Dr. Rajvinder. Thanks to Dr. Brennan. And we'll see everybody next week. Thank you.
Hello.
Bye-bye.
Organizing us.
Cheers, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.